Hello and welcome to another Plain Truths, and this week we're going to be talking about blue ice. Joining me as always is the legend that is Captain Al. Hi Captain Al.
Hi Matt.
Now,
I see you've gone for a colourful, messy one there.
Yes, indeed. So, blue ice. Now, I remember a time when I was younger that there was often stories in, that we'll say, the tabloids where very large lumps of blue icy stuff had landed in various people's gardens. And then I think somebody told me that it was something to do with the toilet. So, I mean, is that genuinely a thing, or is that in the past now? Essentially, what happens when you flush the toilet on your aircraft?
Okay, so it's a pretty crappy subject, this really, isn't it?
I see what you did there, yes.
Let's talk about the toilet first, and then we'll talk about the wash-hand basin.
Okay.
Well, when you flush the toilet, basically, there is a vacuum system that sucks what you have made in the toilet bowl away. And you will probably notice that there's not a lot of fluid involved in this process. It's predominantly a dry process. Older aircraft used to use basically a fluid that was a system for flushing the waste away in kind of the same way as your domestic toilet. We used to have a volume of blue fluid, which you would wash the waste away and it would go into a tank. So you'd effectively have two tanks, one with the clean fluid and then one with the fluid that wasn't so clean, shall we say. So kind of liquid in an aeroplane, it's problematic, shall we say. The stories of blue ice were such that the tanks used to leak. It's as simple as that. You've got valves, and anywhere where there's a valve you can have water leak and the volume of pressure, etc., etc. So as the aeroplane was flying, and we've discussed in previous episodes, it's very cold. So if you vent any liquid out of an aeroplane, ultimately it'll freeze, it'll turn to ice, and if it stays in a solid state when it lands in your garden, you will have blue ice. The blue liquid has solidified, and it's solidified with whatever contents were in it if it came from the waste tank. And this used to happen pretty regularly, and certain aircraft types were worse than others. And as technology advanced a bit, people thought, right, well, we must have a better way of dealing with toilet waste. So that's where we came up with the vacuum system. So instead of having, liquid flushing things away, it's basically sucked away. So it's a dry process. The other downside of carrying liquid is, of course, it's a weight, and that's a fuel penalty. So getting rid of weight is a big issue. So modern aeroplanes have a vacuum system that flushes the product away. So you tend not to get issues of blue ice these days on modern aeroplanes. But of course, there are a lot of old aeroplanes still flying around. So blue ice landing in people's gardens does happen from time to time, but less so than it used to, because we've replaced toilets with vacuum ones. Now, I'll just talk a little bit about the vacuum system. There's a vacuum generator to flush the toilets on the ground. But once you get up to, sort of 10,000 feet, there's enough of a pressure differential, delta P, not to be confused with the P in the pan. And therefore, because the air in the cabin wants to get out to the outside because the cabin is pressurized, you don't need to generate a vacuum to suck the product around the aircraft, because, of course, the toilet itself is in the pressurized section, but the storage tanks for the waste are in the unpressurized section. So there is a natural desire for the waste to want to go into the tank because of the pressure exerted on it. So there you go. That's why we tend not to have so much blue ice. Now, I said to you I talked about wash-hand basins. Right. We need to wash our hands after doing what we've done, especially in the present climate. So we need some form of water to wash our hands with. We have a water tank or water tanks on board the aircraft. The water that comes out of the wash-hand basin tap isn't magic. It's real water that has been stored. And what do we do with it? Well, we vent it overboard. So if you're doing your walk round as an experienced pilot, you know which parts of the aircraft not to walk under when people have just washed their hands, brushed their teeth. or done even worse things in the wash hand basin, because it'll just come out onto the apron. If we're in flight, it just goes overboard and just disappears into the environment. And we're talking about small amounts of water here.
So essentially, if, for example, the cabin crew don't like the captain, they've got a real opportunity to get their own back, as it were.
Well, yeah, legend has it that cabin crew have, I'm guessing this is probably more male cabin crew, but there are some gymnastic female cabin crew who've managed to wee in the washhand basin and just pull the plug as the pilots are doing their walk round. But like I say, those of us who are, let's just say, a bit more experienced know which areas not to walk under. But I have seen a first officer have an impromptu hair washing session as someone has pulled the plug out of the washout basin.
Oh, one of these days I'm going to sit down with some cabin crew. I bet they could make my hair go completely white. I'll tell you, as always, Captain Al, well done. Thanks very much.
My pleasure.
If you'd like to watch more from our great series, then you can do that by pressing here. We've also created you a playlist with all the Plain Truth episodes, and you'll find that just here. Why not like and subscribe to our channel? That way you will be notified whenever we post our great content. Or if you've got a question that you'd like Captain Al to answer, then why not pop it in the comments box below, and you may well feature on an upcoming episode of The Plain Truth.